can get him. Runhappy has won the Naira.com King's Bishop by 4.
Runhappy, standing at Claiborne Farm.
Hi, everybody. Dan Illman and Mike Beer, the DRF race of the day for Saturday, February the 29th. Well, it's the richest race in the world. It's the $20 million Saudi Cup, and our coverage is presented by Runhappy, standing at Claiborne Farm. Let's take a look at this field. International intrigue, Mike Beer. We've got some of America's best racehorses, including Maximum Security, McKinsey, Mucho Gusto, Tacitus, Midnight Bisou. That's a pretty nice crew, but it's not like the quote-unquote foreign horses are not represented. There are some good horses in this field, top to bottom.
Yeah, they got a big field, a lot of top-class horses in here. Yes, I do believe that the American horses have the advantage as they run this race over the dirt track. But I just think it's really interesting, too, Dan, because you usually see these sort of classic kind of races at a mile and a quarter. I think the mile and the eighth really makes this race even that much more interesting because it gets the best distance for a lot of these horses.
Free exclusive DRF Past Performances for the Saudi Cup available on the Race of the Day event page at DRF.com. Now, the numbers we just showed you, they are in program number order, not post position order. We'll take them in program number order, beginning with the number 1, Ben Bottle, post position 3. Ben Bottle made his dirt debut last time out at Meydan, and he won. Where he's on the outside right now, Mike, in the familiar Godolphin Blue. Seems to be cruising at this point.
Yeah, he did cruise in this race. I mean, he just got a really nice, comfortable trip, tracking the pace 3 wide. He never was really under any pressure in the race. You saw him take it over with no trouble at all at the top of the stretch. He's going to go clear, not going to change leads in the stretch, but there's really nobody running behind him here, Dan. Certainly he handled dirt in here. I don't know what it means now as he goes up against real dirt horses. You know, he's clearly a pretty nice horse. He's made a lot of money. He's 10 for 21 lifetime. I just found it interesting that even on turf, which I guess you would have to consider his best surface, at least at this point, I don't know, he wasn't really a top-class turf horse either. They tried, you know, the King George and Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Anne, the Judmont International, all those big races. He wasn't really competitive on turf in those races. I just wonder how good he is.
He does have a good tactical speed. That's what we can say about him. But I'm concerned that of the horses coming out of Dubai, he exits one of the weaker races. I just don't know if that field stacks up to this one. He's going to have to take another step forward, in my opinion, in here. The number 2 is Capezano. Capezano won by 7 last time out in the Firebreak Stakes. Let's watch that race. He was on fire in Meydan in 2019. He won 3 in a row. He went into the Dubai World Cup. It didn't work out there. It certainly worked out for him here off the lengthy layoff in his seasonal debut. He's just drawing away from this field.
He's run some really nice races. He ran really well in this race, following a long layoff, just never gave this field a chance. I guess it's all a question of, you know, how well does he class up, Dan? When they've bumped him up in class in the past, it has not worked out.
He has speed. Now, he has shown speed at Meydan. I'm not sure he has shown Maximum Security speed. This is a one-turn 9-furlong race, which really might play to the hooves of the American runners. Horses like Midnight Bisou's proven over that. McKinsey's ran so well in the Met Mile, going a one-turn mile. Maximum Security, the winner of the Cigar Mile. It'll be interesting to see if Capezano decides to use front-running tactics, if he could step with a horse like Maximum Security.
I don't know if he has American speed. I don't even know if he has the speed of one of the other Dubai shippers in North America, who's just another horse who wants to be out there on the front.
The number 3 is an undefeated horse coming in from Japan. That's Chryso Beryl. He is 6 for 6 in his career, and his most recent start was his final race as a 3-year-old. Let's watch him in the Champions Cup, going a mile and an eighth. He is in the red hat in behind horses. From watching Chryso Beryl and following his career closely since the start, to me this is a horse that A, wants distance, might even want a little more than a mile and an eighth, and B, doesn't like being down inside. Once he gets out into the clear, it looks like he's in big trouble. He's been under a drive for a quarter mile, but he finishes this off very well.
He really does. He's much the best at the end of this race. All in all, this was a perfect trip that he got sitting in behind the lead, and he was able to get clear. I guess that's only a problem. That trip's only a problem if you don't get clear. He did get clear, and then I like the fact that he did what he had to do, Dan. He obviously has made no mistakes to this point. He's got an awful lot to prove against a field like this one, and we'll just see how he handles a much faster pace. Because when I watch his race over there, it just doesn't seem like they go fast paces over there. And I just wonder how he's going to cope with that.
And he is just a big horse. It takes him a while to get going. You've seen him on the turns in some of his races against weaker competition. That's where he makes his move. And maybe with a wide sweeping turn in a race full of pace, he can make up some ground quickly. Chrysobarrel's last race in the Champions Cup, that was his domestic test. He had faced much weaker horses on the lower circuits. He passed the test, but he only passed the test by a head under a drive. I'm a huge fan of this horse, as you know, but this is a big step up.
He won that race a lot easier, I think, than the margin of victory is going to suggest. But as you were sort of alluding to, this is a much bigger test. He's facing some real horses.
Now, he beat Gold Dream in that race, and Gold Dream is a good gatekeeper of the older graded stakes dirt horse contingent in Japan, and has been for a while. Gold Dream got the jump on Chrysobarrel in that race, really had no excuse to lose.
He didn't. No, I didn't see an excuse for him at all. I thought he got a good trip overall. He was right there, and he had all the momentum on the outside. He didn't have to work his way clear and then come with a run again the way Chrysobarrel did. He still couldn't hold on. He came out of that race and his run again subsequently and didn't necessarily run that well. We'll see how good he is, Dan. I mean, he is a good, I don't want to say how good he is. He's a good horse. I think his best form might be behind him.
He's a good horse, and I think you're right. I think he's off form right now, and now this is just a big ask. You're asking him to ship all the way across the world against a horse with more upside than he does in Chrysobarrel, not to mention the big guns in this race. Maybe the mile and a quarter was a little far for him last time out, but I'm a little concerned about his lack of current form. Let's take a look at the number 5 in this race, and that is Great Scott. Great Scott's one of 2 horses in this race trying dirt for the first time. Won a Group 3 last time out on turf, but trying dirt for the first time off of a long layoff, just not my kind of horse against some top-class dirt runners.
Yeah, I kind of agree with all that stuff. I mean, he won the first 2 starts of his career. He's 2 for 9 since then. He did win a Group 3 the last time we saw him, but that was in September over soft turf going a mile. He's never been on dirt, and he's only been beyond a mile in his life only once. I don't even know if he wants to go this far.
Another horse that has shown speed on the turf in slower paced races in England. Not sure that kind of gas plays in this race. Up next is Gronkowski, and American fans are very familiar with Gronkowski. Second in the Belmont Stakes behind Triple Crown winner Justify, and after that ran okay in 3 subsequent starts in North America. He went to a new barn. He's been running in Dubai, and close but no cigar. He just missed in the Dubai World Cup last year.
He really, I mean, that was a pretty tough beat right there. He just came up short in the Dubai World Cup. That would have been a nice win for him. Overall, I'm just not really thrilled with his dirt form, Dan. He did run well in the Belmont Stakes, his first time ever on dirt, but he just had everything go right that day. Got a great ride from Jose Ortiz, took advantage, and got himself classic placed in North America. But after that, I'm not really thrilled with his performance. And last time he ran against Ben Botto last time, to me, he was wide through that race. He didn't really do any running at all through the stretch.
I'm concerned that he's not in his best form. I'm concerned that maybe he wants a little more ground, a mile and a quarter, a mile and a half. But if this pace is hot, we've seen Gronkowski rally off of North American-style paces and get pieces. Maybe he can get underneath at a giant price. Maximum Security is the number 7. He's the 5-2 favorite on the simulcast morning line, and he just dominated the Cigar Mile last time out. Let's watch that race. It was a 2-horse race on paper. Maximum Security, Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile winner, spun to run. They threw it down on the back stretch. Maximum Security was just best. I think it is worth noting he earned a career best buyer speed figure of 111 on this day. You needed to be on the lead and on the rail. Was that flattered? He would have won anyway, I think.
I think he would.
But was he flattered by the track?
Maybe. It certainly didn't hurt him, let's put it that way. But he just dominated this field, as you said. And the interesting thing about that race, too, is that the horse that he had to beat Spun to Run was also a speed. And Maximum Security just took the lead away from him. And then when Spun to Run actually tried to get to him early, they were still on the backstretch when Spun to Run came and tried to make a race of it. And it wasn't happening. Maximum Security was just way better than him. This horse, you just start going through his lines one after another, then he's made absolutely no mistakes out on the racetrack. He's a real good horse, and he's going to be forward in here.
Well, he made one mistake on the racetrack in the Kentucky Derby, or else you could say Louis Saez made the mistake that day, unfortunately. Somebody made a mistake. Here, make no mistake about it, he's probably going to the lead if he breaks, and I think a 1-turn mile and an 1/8 plays into his hooves. The 8 McKinsey is just hickory. Look at his past performances, just dotted with triple-digit buyer after triple-digit buyer. Beaten favorite in the Breeders' Cup Classic last time out. We'll watch that race. There he is on the outside. side. He ran well in here. Vino Rosso just got the better of him at 1.25 miles. And I think that's the key. 1.25 miles has always kind of been the bugaboo for a horse like McKenzie. We were worried about him getting 1.8 miles. He got it in the Whitney.
Yep.
This is just a good, solid racehorse, and you got to respect him in this race.
He's a real good horse. That race we're watching there, he didn't even run that poorly in the Breeders' Cup. I know he was the favorite and a beaten favorite at that, but he just doesn't want to go that far. He proved it again in that race. He has that 3-race run towards the middle of last year where he won the Ali Sheba, ran a great second in the Met Mile, and then he came back and destroyed the Whitney. Those 3 performances, if he runs one of those, he's going to be really tough in here. The flip side of that is he came out of the Whitney with an awesome again performance that I don't know, that just wasn't a good one. He's a little bit hard to trust. I don't think he's that hard. He's a little bit hard to trust, but with his good race, man, he's a handful in here.
The local hope lies with the 9, MJ Jack. He's been running in Saudi Arabia, and he has won 5 races in a row, 10 for 26 lifetime. But let's be honest, he is now going to be facing horses light years better than the one he's been facing in local races.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know what to say about it. He is on a nice little win streak now. He lost his first 4 starts on dirt, but he's won 5 straight since then. He's obviously in good form. We'll see how he stacks up. He's got to be a big price in here.
Bob Baffert trains the 3-to-1 shot McKenzie. He also has perhaps the now horse from his barn, the 6-to-1 number 10, Mucho Gusto. And Mucho Gusto was one of a sort of middling 3-year-olds last year. Other than Maximum Security, the 3-year-old division was kind of in and out. Mucho Gusto would run a good race in the Haskell, a decent race in the Travers, and then not such a good race in the Oklahoma Derby. Who knew that he was going to explode in his 4-year-old debut? I guess Bob Baffert did in the Pegasus World Cup last time out. Here he is, and he got a great trip. Irad broke well, got into save ground in the pocket on the first turn, angled 3 wide, and once he levels out in the stretch, he dominates to the tune of a 107 Beyer speed figure. Is this who Mucho Gusto is right now? Because if he is, he's value in this race.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, maybe he is this horse now. I guess we'll find out a lot more about him here. In this race that we're watching right there, you could kind of see that coming. That wasn't the initial plan to run in that race. Baffert sort of called a late audible and shipped him over off of some good works. He pulled Irad off of a major contender in the race to ride Mucho Gusto. There's all those things going on. He sort of suggested he was really going to run that day. He did really run that day, Dan. Listen, I'm not going to argue with anybody who thinks this is him now. He's taken the big step forward, and now this is what he's going to be. I'm not buying it yet. I want to see it again, especially against the 2 morning line favorites in this race. But we'll see. If he runs a race like that, he's a contender.
And I guess if you believe in this sort of thing, he raced without Lasix in the Pegasus World Cup. This race, of course, all the contestants will be running without Lasix. So he's proven in that regard. And he has the recency edge over the other American horses who are coming off layoffs. The number 11 is North America, who has been a rock-solid horse in Dubai for quite a long time. He ran 3rd in his 8-year-old debut last time out. He likes to go to the front. And even though he might not have maximum security speed, I think they're on ascend with this horse.
I do, too. That tends to be how they ride him. He's a pretty fast horse, and he's actually run a big race or 2 in the past. Leading up to World Cup night back in 2017, he was on a big run leading into the Godolphin Mile last year. He speed popped a couple of fields on the way to the Dubai World Cup, and that didn't work out for him. His most recent start, he's had a run off the layoff. He didn't break that great in that spot off the layoff, but he was ridden to the lead. He had a clear lead in the stretch, and he just got run down right at the very end by a couple of horses and missed in a 3-way photo. I mean, I guess he ran fine last time, Dan. I think he's going to have to really improve off of that, though, to beat this field.
That was a good lung opener for him, first start off the layoff. He did a lot of work and should be sharper for this race. Let's look at the horses that beat him, though. Kim Bear came back. He lost to Ben Bottles. Secret Ambition came back. He lost to Capizano. We'll see how North America does second off the layoff. The number 12 is Tacitus for Bill Mott. And boy, was he a tough luck customer as a 3-year-old. I mean, he overcame trouble to win the Tampa Bay Derby and especially the Wood Memorial. In the Kentucky Derby, maybe not the greatest trip in the world. He finished in even 4th. Certainly in the Belmont, he was against the bias. In the Jim Dandy, he stumbled and I thought was on the deeper part of the track.
True.
He ran okay in the Travers.
He did.
And then we watched this race in the Jockey Club Gold Cup. First time against older horses. He's in between horses. He has every chance. And yes, Vino Rosso ends up coming out of this race to win the Breeders' Cup Classic. Maybe flattering the performance. But Tacitus is just flat in the stretch.
Yeah, this wasn't one of his better performances. I mean, all the things that you said leading up to this race were true. I mean, he was the kind of horse who felt like he was really hard luck. And it was just going to take him getting the right trip in the right kind of spot, and he was going to pop up and win a big race. It didn't happen for him here. Obviously, he got a very good trip in the Jockey Club Gold Cup, sat right up on the pace with Vino Rosso, and you saw there at the top of the stretch stand, he was no match for the 1-2 finish. It was not his best performance. It does feel like there's still a lot of upside with Tim, Dan. I'm not going to be surprised when he ultimately puts everything together and turns into a real nice older horse. None of the stuff we just talked about, though, makes me want to bet him in this race.
Do you think we'll revert to the sort of rating tactics that we saw in the Tampa Bay Derby and the Wood Memorial? I was very surprised to see him ridden so aggressively in the early portion of the Travers, and they seem to carry that on into the Jockey Club Gold Cup. Yes, the blinkers have made him a little bit more aggressive. I wonder if that's the right running strategy for him here, especially in a race with pace. I think that Jockey Club Gold Cup was him crying out for a break, and Bill Mott, a great horseman, said, you know something, I'm not going to run him in the Breeders' Cup, not going to run him in the Cigar, we're not going to run the Pegasus, we're going to give him plenty of time. I'm expecting a good performance for Tacitus, who's 15-1. The number 13 is Magic Wand, and boy, what a cool horse. No matter the continent, and she's run on just about all of them, she gives a good, solid try every time. It's unfortunate that she's run second 9 times in 23 lifetime races. Second in the Pegasus World Cup Turf, second in the Hong Kong Cup, second in the Irish Champion, second in the Arlington Million. But she's right there at the wire every single time. Here's the issue with Magic Wand on Saturday. She's going to be trying dirt for the first time. She doesn't really have that big dirt pedigree, and you have to be concerned that she could just get out-sprinted early.
She's a really, really nice horse, as you were sort of alluding to. It doesn't matter where they run her. It doesn't matter what distance they run her at. It doesn't matter what continent they run her on. She just shows up and runs every time. It's sort of amazing to look at her record and see her at 3 for 23 lifetime, because she is tough as nails. I don't know if she's going to handle dirt, Dan. This is a tough spot for her.
Such a cool horse is Magic Wand, and if it doesn't work out on Saturday, I would expect a really great international campaign for her when she moves back to the turf. Last but not least on the program number perspective is the number 14, Midnight Bisou, champion older filly and mare last year in North America, and she almost pulled off an undefeated 8-for-8 campaign in the Breeders' Cup Distaff. We'll turn into the stretch of that race. She was wide on the turn after saving early ground. Blue Prize, who's hickory in her own right, got the jump on her, and that was the key. Yeah, it really was. I mean, she didn't run poorly at all in here, Midnight Bisou. Blue Prize had the jump on her. Mike Smith got this horse out into the clear about the 5/16 pole, and she ran. She just can't catch this horse in front. I thought she ran fine, even if it wasn't, her best performance of the year. We'll see what happens. She's a 5-time Grade 1 winner. She's really nice. I think the 1 1/8 is a good distance for her. This is a tough spot against the boys. No doubt. Tough spot against the boys, but keep in mind, maybe she ran a little bit below par at Santa Anita, but she wasn't the only horse all weekend long that had trouble with sort of that cuppy footing. It wasn't your usual Santa Anita racetrack Breeders' Cup weekend. A lot of horses had trouble with it. Maybe Midnight Bisou was adversely affected a little bit by the racetrack. Let's take a look at our top selections for the $20 million Saudi Cup. You know I'm married to this horse, so I have to pick him because he's going to be 15-1. I've been tweeting about him, talking about him on social media since after his career debut. Chrysoberyl has yet to let me down, but this is obviously a giant step up in class, and if you're just looking at it on the cold dope, he's a rather unlikely winner in this race. I'm just fascinated to see what we get because I still think there's upside. I like his races too, Dan. I don't have him in there, but to me he is sort of the one horse outside of the known quantities. I think he's the most interesting one. I'll be very interested to see what he does in this race. I chalked it out. I'm going with McKinsey and Maximum Security on top. I think they're the 2 right horses. I think they might be the 2 best horses, Dan, and I'm not going to try and get clever. I think they're probably the most accomplished horses in the race. They're the class of the race. If not Chrysoberyl, maybe I go to Mucho Gusto, being the now horse in here as a second-time 4-year-old with still a little bit of upside, perhaps with the recency edge over the other North American-based runners. It's going to be a sensational race, the $20 million Saudi Cup. Remember to download those free exclusive daily racing form past performances on the Race of the Day event page at DRF.com, and our coverage of the Saudi Cup presented by Runhappy, standing at Claiborne Farm.